I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Prashant. He's the Consumer Insights Lead, South Asia, FMCG Lead, Middle East and Africa, Nielsen IQ. With 27 years of experience in the insights industry, Prashant is an expert in the brand communications and media-related research. He has worked in India, Southeast Asia, North Asia, and MENAP region. Prashant has partnered clients across sectors and across different stages of brand building. Please welcome Prashant.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Paru, for the introduction. I thought before we go through the next 2 days of exciting work that the industry does, it's best to get a sense of how the numbers look like from a sizing point of view. And ultimately, that kind of defines the shape and structure of what we are all about. Let me just do a quick refresher on the methodology. Paru touched on this because in 2021, when the report was released, we did a big shift in how we define what is data and insights industry. And we also made a big leap in terms of how we actually do the work of sizing. What was initially considered as a few established players actually sharing numbers, and of course those things are important, sharing numbers. The key thing was to expand into multiple segments. So for example, in the work that we do now, starting 2021 onwards, we have BPOs and KPOs covered. We have analytics firms covered. We have online and tech partners covered. We also have B2B syndicated publishing covered. So that's like a much evolving and wider spectrum of players. Now, we don't intend to do this exhaustive work every single year. So after 21, the next big comprehensive work will be released in 2025. Everything that happens in between, starting from last year onwards, are what we call as interim updates. This year too, for 2023 release, we went with a relatively smaller design, but built on the strong fundamentals of what was done in 2021. We interviewed 37 experts, which is across agency and all the 8 segments that I spoke about. And the fieldwork was done around May, June 2023. The big difference is, now we can't get numbers every single time. So essentially, this approach for the updates is looking at the growth perspective, getting a sense of how have we grown from last year and what defines that growth. So there is a mix of qual quant inputs, and that kind of gets shaped up as an update for 2022, 23, and 24. So, but much of the story is about growth. There will be some insights not as deep as the 2021 report, but we will be releasing in November 23, and you will see some details around it. So where do we stand? You know the numbers. Congratulations to everybody here and the rest of the stakeholders who are watching this virtually online, and many others who are not joining the event but are part of the industry. So we are at $2.9 billion industry as of today, which is from last year's point of view. And so there are two growth stories. One is from a net growth point of view, which is after covering for inflation and currency. It's a 10% growth. But more importantly, from a rupee perspective, which is what we all live with, it's a 17.5% growth. And that's phenomenal. And we know this is coming after the rebound year of COVID, which is the previous number, that was 19.5. Globally, the growth numbers have gone down a little bit, and that's natural because you're not going to get the jump again. But it's important to see that we are among the bright spots where the numbers are about to be 12 digits and a big size market. So that's great. Yeah. In terms of how we are structured, some of you would have seen the report last time. We are a hugely export-oriented business, but we also have a sizable domestic segment. So the 21% that you see is all locally done work, and the 80% that you see is international, which is work that comes from other markets, but handled by us. And that's, of course, testimony to the great talent that we have in this country. The big driver of growth is to some extent the international markets, which is about 19%. So what you saw as 17.5 is now 19% for international. And analytics. So analytics within international has grown at 25%. So that's the biggest driver. The nice thing is analytics is also growing within India, both from the traditional research embracing analytics as a top layer, and also the clients actually investing in that. So within India, the analytics growth is around 15 odd percent, and which is great. Custom research within domestic is still a very significant part, and that's mainstay. It adds a lot of value from a strategic work point of view, and I'll touch upon that in the next few slides. Globally now, we are number 3, just surpassed China. We used to be number 4 in the last year's update that you would have seen. The growth story, like I mentioned, you can see it's 3.9% for the entire world, which used to be around 8 to 10% before. So the growth numbers have reduced, but then we are growing at 10% on a net growth basis. And you have a market like US, which is pretty dominant. It's like about 50% of the global industry. And that also has continued a fairly significant growth, which is remarkable. And that's primarily due to some extent pricing and inflation, but also because of volume growth on the continuous trend post the pandemic rebound. One thing to be noted is China, which, as you saw last year, was a number 3, is the only big market that actually has degrown. And we all are aware of the difficult market situation China went through because of the prolonged pandemic, and also some of the macroeconomic challenges, because you have sectors like real estate, consumer durables, auto, which all have been going through a little bit of shrinkage in Chinese market. So maybe this is one first step in the direction that we heard Piyush Goyal talking about wanting us to double the industry size in the coming years. And I think everything that kind of composes as to how we do our work will actually take us in that direction. I just want to give a quick glimpse on the sectors. Not big changes here compared to last 2 years. FMCG retail still remains the biggest contributor, followed by BFSI and ICT. The good thing is both FMCG retail and the finance sector have actually been growing. And both of them have the custom research and analytics story built into it. So that's nice. This picture is a little different compared to global markets. And maybe to some extent it's because of US, which has a huge media sector around it. And healthcare, of course, which is a little smaller for our markets, but hopefully some of these are sunrise sectors as we move forward in the next few years. Markets like UK is very similar to India. There's not much of a big change, but China is a little different with a little bit more government and public sector work. Yeah. Coming back to India itself, I mean, these may be known to you, but essentially one big shift that has happened in the last year, especially coming after the rebound of pandemic, is we know we are going towards a $6.5 trillion economy by 2030. And a lot of clients are actually investing a good amount of work from a strategic perspective, which means the role of qualitative from an integrated point of view is actually growing, although qual component is still 16 to 18%. But I think the concept of integrated work and deep insights has actually become stronger. Online used to be very big in 2022 post the COVID world, but of course there's a rebalance that has happened, because as we want to understand India a lot more from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, the role of offline will also come. But I would say hybrid remains, because what has also changed is the concept of tech-enabled work, which is actually integrated, which is passive listening. We have platform companies which has actually started playing a big role. We didn't get much of AI in this read, but I'm very sure the next report will actually have a lot more coming from the AI perspective. With growth of analytics within India and international markets, and the fact that clients are actually looking at a lot more strategic work, I think sectoral expertise is coming back, and that puts a big opportunity in front of talent itself, because we need more domain expertise, and that's what will define how we add value to the business itself. From a B2C point of view, of course, as the market comes to normalcy, it is natural that B2C will actually grow much faster. But I think this trend could be a little short term, because for India, as we go towards 2030, the role of manufacturing will be critical. And we will have a lot more B2B work moving in that. I just want to close with some sense of the outlook. Of course, these are outlook based on the conversations we've had with the sample that we've interviewed. Trends can change, but I think we're already facing some bit of headwinds that people are aware of. primarily due to recessionary trends in Western markets, and that will have an impact on analytics and international business. It may have an impact on the domestic business also. And then we have inflation, food inflation especially, which is a little critical aspect, which has impact on the mass consumption products. And monsoon, I think the prediction of monsoon has always been up and down. It has been a little lower than what was expected, so that does raise a bit of a question on how much bullish are clients. But still, it's a growth story, and it is likely to be a growth story for India. But we also have a lot to cheer to, which is from a tailwinds point of view. I mean, we have the festive season, which is coming up, the World Cup that's going on, and we get into election year starting from next coming months. All of these are going to put a lot more optimism and buoyancy to the Indian market. The outlook, as we see today, is around a 12% absolute growth against the 17.5%. But the key thing is a $3 billion business or an industry growing at double digit and will continue to do so for the next few years is still fantastic. And that will actually take us to the size that we want to achieve, which is doubling the industry in the next few years. So those were some of the highlights. The report, as Paru mentioned, will be there November 2023, which will have a lot more details around it. I just want to take this moment to thank everybody who contributed to this, because without your inputs, we can't get to a sense of what the size of the industries. And the team from MRSI who worked on it, along with the technical experts from outside who supported this. Yeah. So thank you, and you have a good next 2 days of fabulous time. Yes. Thank you.